Academia first introduced me to the world of gardening when I was in the 4th grade. Each student in my class was to plant their own soybean, from seedling to the first bean pods deciding. This assignment was engaging because it was something that we needed to focus on for multiple periods, making sure to water them and being sure they got the proper amount of sunlight. And once the bean plant sprouted, it was an amazing feeling, especially being a 10-year-old, that I had given life to something. I was very excited over this project, perhaps mostly due to the fact that I have an own personal astonishment with the natural world. But nonetheless, I remember seeing the excitement in almost every one of my classmates' eyes when their plant came to life. And while the reasons behind the excitement perhaps varied, there's a reason I know now that I wish I had known then. The knowledge of simple gardening was fun and useful to learn, but at the time myself and the rest of the class didn't see the connection between planting and how it could someday correlate with our own health. This is a connection I see all too clearly now, as my studies of chemistry and food have given me insight. Kids today don't know the importance such a skill as gardening can have in their life and their health, considering all of their food is provided to them by their parents or schools, and to them by supermarkets. While this convenience can be useful in a lot of ways, the foods that Americans consume today are not the same foods we were consuming in the past. Children are our future, but the way our society is shaping, the children now have a huge increased risk of developing chronic illnesses such as diabetes and cancer, as well as a vastly huge increased risk of obesity. As of 2012, over half of adults in America, 117 million people, were plagued with chronic illnesses. The causes of these chronic illnesses are being more clearly linked to diet over anything else. And now the food industry has created a vast selection of these food-like substances, and kids today are unknowingly consuming things that may in their late future lead to problems in their health. Crops are smothered with pesticides and harsh chemicals, and some of them are genetically tampered with. And on top of that, kids just eat way too much junk and sugary foods. These aspects of the Western diet have all been linked to progression of chronic illnesses. On top of all this, modern medicine today worries little about preventing these illnesses and more about fixing the problem or covering it up with drugs. There's almost always a prevention before a treatment. I believe explanation of proper nutrition to children throughout all of their time in the educational system can help lower disease risk and incidence in our country. I'll explain to you further the issue with foods today and why I think this connection between food and health is something that can be taught at a young age and how the educational system can help. Americans are extremely accustomed to all things that are fast and easy. If a parent is too tired to cook for their kids, there are at least 3 or more fast food restaurants on their way home that they could stop to for a fast meal. But this fast food is not even close to what the human body considers food. Yet kids learn at a young age that Happy Meals and packaged foods and chips and cookies are real foods. And all these food-like substances that claim to be nutritional are actually causing a lot of the health problems in the world today. Children who learn to eat these foods at a young age and consider them as real foods will continue to eat them as they grow up. A majority of packaged and processed foods contain chemical preservatives or other added chemicals to enhance taste or stop rotting. But these additives are things that the human body was not made to digest. Eating all of these preservatives and such forces our bodies to work extra hard to pull out the nutrients it really needs. While this may not be bad at first, or for the first couple of years, think about it in the long term. To explain to you how this might affect our bodies, I'd like you to consider your car engine. Imagine that every time you leave your driveway, you rev your engine to its maximum. Now at first, you won't notice any problems with your car, but a long time down the line, you go to start your car, and your engine blows. Now there are children who are consuming these additives and revving up their bodies every day. Now their body isn't going to explode, but revving your internal processes too high for too long of a time is bound to have detrimental effects. Besides these additive effects in the body, even these good natural foods such as fruits and vegetables are causing harm to bodies today. The majority of fruits and vegetables today have been treated with harsh chemical pesticides and herbicides. These chemicals are sprayed on the plants to kill insects and unwanted weeds. These are deadly toxic chemicals. Yet food industries use them to attain higher crop yields, claiming that pesticides don't actually make their way into your insides. This is not the case. Fruits and vegetables absorb these chemicals, and there are studies upon studies that show that exposure to pesticides from food consumption can be linked to cancer and other toxic health effects. This information is publicly known, but it appears the vast majority of adults don't know or don't care, and their children are completely clueless. And to make matters worse, on top of all this pesticide use, foods are being genetically tampered with, for many reasons, one being internal pesticides. And so while we're not completely aware of the effects this has, there are studies linking internal pesticides of plants to problems in the body. And yet we allow our kids to consume them anyway. And while the chemical-covered plants have a huge role in disease risk, fruits and vegetables in general have a bigger role in disease prevention. Diet has little importance to the modern medicine, yet for hundreds of years, natural foods from the earth have been used to treat illnesses and diseases. There are studies and studies and studies describing the health benefits of consuming fruits and vegetables, and now even studies showing they can prevent diseases such as cancer. For example, curcumin, a molecule found in the spice turmeric, has been shown to prevent cancerous tumors and even stop tumor growth and decrease tumor growth in an already infected patient. This information is amazing to many in the science community, but not even known to the majority of adults in America, let alone their children. Almost all fruits and vegetables have abilities in fighting diseases and illnesses, including the diseases brought on by the food-like substances people eat. If children were taught from a young age the true negatives of all the processed foods and the positives of the good organic foods, they'd have such an increased chance of preventing disease. Now, myself as a food chemist, I can understand the mechanisms and processes that our bodies go through when foods and how disease progresses. Children, of course, won't be able to understand the underlying mechanisms, but they are capable of understanding right and wrong and good from bad. A statement such as, "you are what you eat," can be taken into many instances to a trap. And so if we could somehow incorporate the bads associated with processed foods and explain the goods behind organic foods throughout a child's entire education, perhaps they will enter adulthood with a better understanding of how to be healthy. This can be as simple as a discussion of the facts and as engaging as allowing a communal organic garden maintained by the students. Kids are excited to learn, and if any of them felt even just a little bit of excitement over food, like I had over my bean sprout, there's hope. The outlets are numerous, and if we can make this food education spread throughout the entire country, the next generation could have a decreased amount of chronic disease.